Hello, everyone. Welcome to Emanate. Thank you very much for attending our webinar today. We are going to discuss about the applications of hydrogen in transport and energy sectors. But to begin with, I would like to just introduce about Emanate, probably for those who attend for the first time. We are a community-based exchange platform that brings together the professionals working or aspiring to work in sustainability sectors. What we do is that we share our knowledge through webinars, and we have been covering diverse topics, renewable energies, energy efficiencies, and all other efforts towards climate change mitigations. Our webinars and our exchange platform are accessible for everyone. It means anyone can come, anyone can watch, and anyone can also present. We have the website, our LinkedIn page and Facebook page, apart from this YouTube page that you guys are attending. And you are invited to visit those pages to get to know more about us. And so we are very lucky this afternoon in the Europe time that we have three experts that are going to talk about the role of hydrogens in energy and transport sectors. We have two speakers, Rocio and Maria. So without further ado, I'm going to give the floor straight away to Rocio as the first speaker. Floor is yours.
Okay, I will share my screen with you. Hello, everyone. When I will start to present myself, I started my professional life as a process engineer and project management assistant in Argentina. I've been working in Draco companies for 3 years. Then I decided to start a master here in Europe. So I did my master PM3E in École des Mines Nantes. After my master, I had the opportunity to work in Total GRP, and I had the opportunity to participate in a feasibility study hybrid storage energy system. And it's already 1 year and a half that I'm working as a project engineer for AGAP2 at GRT Gas in biomethane injection into gas network projects. So in this webinar, you will see different use of hydrogen. And I will start to introduce in this first part of the webinar a framework overview of renewable energy integration and green hydrogen as a long-term storage. And then I would like to present to you an overview of green hydrogen projects. So let's start with the framework overview. As you know, in order to achieve the 2 degrees goal, the renewable energy integration will be expanded. There are some studies that are showing that the global power generation is expected to grow at 86% in 2050, mainly coming from PV and wind. And this variable renewable energy depends on its level of deployment and the context of the power systems. For example, the size of the systems, operational and marketing design, regulations, and fundamental of supply and demand. So as you can see, we have a new challenge to face in order to support the renewable energy integration. So there are some studies that are to propose to categorize the renewable energy integration in 6 phases, where in phase 1 and 2, there is not expected a huge impact, but after phase 3, we need to invest in flexibility to prioritize the different measures to support these systems and to identify relevant challenge and implementation appropriate to these measures. For example, there are some studies that are showing that countries that is already in phase 3, they are presenting a renewable energy surplus in some periods of time, for example, during spring, of 25%. So that really we can see that it's important to start to take actions over this kind of process. But how can we act? Well, as you can see, if we increase the renewable energy integrations, we will be advancing in the different spaces that we need to provide flexibility. But sometimes we are talking about hours, days, or sometimes we are talking about months of years. So depending on that, there are different level of decision making that I would like to present to you in these 3 words. Who is the typical decision makers, for example, energy minister or system operators? How is the category of the intervention, for example, some policies that are making market regulations, And finally, what can we do? How can we do it? Is with different assets that we are going to act. And is in here that I would like to present to you the concept of the energy storage. And I propose to you in this webinar to focus in this part of what. So how can we see the energy storage? It's a key component in renewable energy integration that can make them dispatchables. And it's important to understand when we are discussing about energy storage, we are talking about short-term storage and long-term storage. And it's in here in long-term storage that I would like to present to you the part of the hydrogen. So let me introduce you on this picture. You can see that you have different technologies that you can utilize in order to storage energy. If we are talking about seconds, minutes, and hours, you can see that clearly you can utilize batteries. But if we are talking about the weeks or months, we can utilize the hydrogen as a long-term storage. Long-term storage of a large surplus of amount of electricity requires a new type of the storage, how you can see, and we are introducing concepts of chemical storage in the form of the hydrogen. Because of its relatively low space weight and high energy density, hydrogen is an excellent energy carrier. And it's really important to understand that because some forecastings are showing that in 2050, hydrogen from renewables power translate into 5% of the total final energy consumptions. So now that we understand the concept of the hydrogen and green hydrogen produced from renewable energy, in order to valorize the renewable energy surplus, I would like to present to you a project overview of green hydrogen long-term storage. So we are going to discuss of the three aspects: technical challenge, hydrogen demand, and business model. So in the first part of the technical challenge, we need to understand in which phase we are of the variable renewable energy integrations. After that, we need to understand which is the high-level system design that we are going to have. For example, how many megawatts of the electrolyzer, how many watts that we need to storage from renewable energy, in order to optimize the electrolyzer running hours. For example, here I can present to you a little example. Let's say that you have a system where the energy that you need to absorb of the renewable energy surplus is going to be a little bit over-dimensioning. So that means that some part of the energy you will absorb in a short time in a battery during the day, for example, and as well you can utilize to feed the electrolyzer to produce hydrogen. And during night, for example, you can feed the electrolyzers with the battery and as well with wind. And you can optimize the utilization factors of the electrolyzers during the whole year. And is this profile that you can see, for example, in here of the hydrogen productions. I would like to discuss as well with you the part of the hydrogen demand. Well, that will be mainly um, linked with the geographical locations. Sometimes you can inject the hydrogen in the hydrogen pipeline. In other times, for example, in other cases, you can inject the hydrogen in the gas infrastructure, but this is depending of the blending regulations. And this is important because you can support the link of the two different sectors, like we are the gas infrastructure and electricity infrastructure. Sometimes you can storage this hydrogen that you have been produced and transport it and for later uses. You can utilize it as well in the mobility, for example, high refueling stations, and use it in transport. And for example, you can as well utilize the hydrogen in the industry to produce ammonia or synthetic methane. So finally, for example, if we are seeing in the part of the business model, this kind of process nowadays, they have the main barrier of the electrolyzer CapEx. Some studies are showing that the forecasting that the forthcoming years, the price of the electrolyzer will fall down. It will be depending as well of the electrolysis price, as well of the green hydrogen selling price, that it will be highly depending of the which demand that we are having, which is the annual production kilograms per year. And finally, which will be the investment. Then in this case, this kind of process nowadays are supported by consortiums of partnership or as well subsidies from the government. So the key takeaway that I would like to that you have in mind that is that we are entering in a world where renewables will make up an increasing share of our electricity. So the challenges are clear. We need to act in order to support the renewable energy integrations. We need to identify in which phase of these six categorizations we are in order to know how can we act. Hydrogen with relatively low specific weight and high energy density is feasible for storage energy as a long term. As a long term storage can support renewable integration in the aggregation of gas and electricity infrastructure. And finally, joint use of the gas infrastructure for hydrogen and natural gas might be a win-win in this energy transition. As you can see, there are many demonstrators that started growing up, and I would like to invite you to visit these sources if you want to know more about this kind of green hydrogen projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rocio, for very brief and complete introductions about the applications of hydrogen in energy sectors as a storage. So just to inform our audience that probably join us only for this webinars that last weekend we covered also the sector the part of hydrogen production that has a lot to do with what Rocio just presented when it comes about the hydrogen production using renewable energies. Thank you. So yeah, next I will give the floor to Maria to now discuss about the transport sector. The floor is yours. Maybe you can unmute. Before I would like, sorry, also like if you guys want to find the webinar that we had last weekend, you can browse through our YouTube channel and then there is the video is available online. So yeah, you can always refer back to that. Okay, Maria, the floor is yours.
Okay, so can you see my presentation now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Maria Esmeral. I'm a mechanical engineer for vehicle aerodynamics. I have a master in vehicle aerodynamics. And I have worked the past 4 years as Alten consultant for Toyota Motor Europe, as data analysis specialist for the fuel cell team, and currently as fuel cell engineer in all that is related to system integration and other applications. So as Rocio presented before, there are some main pillars of hydrogen-related research, investigation, and of course applications. So I'm going to focus now in two pillars, clean transport and heat and electricity production. The other topics were covered by Rocio already and Fatima in the previous webinar, so I will just focus on these ones. So let's start with the transport pillar. Of course, all that is related with car, buses, heavy duty, and all related refueling infrastructure for this type of fuel cell vehicles, material handling vehicles, maritime applications, train applications, and planes. So I will give you a small examples of each one of these applications and how are they working actually in the world. So related to the transport pillar, many people think or believe that hydrogen is like a competitor of the electrical vehicles. So as you can see in this graph, we have an overview of the range of application of each different powertrain technology. So as you see, fuel cell, batteries, electrical vehicles, plug-in hybrids, they are not competing with each other, but they are complementing each other in the possibility to fulfill a full range of applications that are currently or that have been in the past fulfilled by fossil fuel type of vehicles. So if you see when you want a short range or a short vehicle size, electrical vehicles have the most efficient operation and functionality, but as soon as you want to have a bigger range or a bigger vehicle size, you introduce what is the hybrids or the fuel cell vehicles. Here we can see, because we discussed in the previous webinar, how is the competitiveness of the fuels in between them. So here you can see the weight energy density and the volumetric energy density of the hydrogen, the batteries, and the fossil fuels. So of course, if we talk volumetric energy density, fossil fuels are superior. But if you check the weight energy density, hydrogen is the one who has the better behavior, better density. So that's why we are betting on that. And for this reason, when you have a big or heavy duty application, hydrogen is quite competitive. So a small overview of a fuel cell vehicle. This is the architecture of a fuel cell vehicle. Is not something that was reinvented. It's built on the hybrid architecture. The only difference is that we changed the combustion engine with a fuel cell stack, and we replaced the gasoline tank or diesel tank with hydrogen tanks. Hydrogen infrastructure, all related to hydrogen stations, refueling stations. So this is an overview of how it's been accelerating for the past 5 years, how in some countries who are betting on hydrogen society, how they start in 2015, already 40 hydrogen stations, for example, in California, 100 hydrogen stations in Japan, Germany was having 50. And the target for these countries for these years and the years to come is to increase drastically this amount of stations in order to be able to deploy faster all the technology in the different parts in the world. So here, what I want to show is actual commercial hydrogen vehicles. So you can see, for example, the Toyota Mirai, the first and the second generation, the Hyundai Nexo, Audi A-tron, BMW G5, the Mercedes-Benz GLC. And what can I say about these vehicles? They have ranges in between 450 kilometers and 670 kilometers. So they are quite competitive. They are commercial right now. They are already several fleets of them in different countries and cities in around the world. Now I go to the buses. So here is 3 examples of buses. So you can see the Sora bus from Toyota. You can see one bus, hydrogen bus, that is operating in Germany, and another hydrogen bus operating in Aberdeen. Fully hydrogen buses. The main competition of these buses, in zero emission buses, you will have electrical buses, and with the low emissions, you will have CNG, natural gas powered vehicles. So in some studies, when they compare these vehicles, hydrogen vehicles have always hydrogen buses. They have always proved to have longer range, better performance in cold weathers, superior hill performance, and a much faster feeling. So they are really ready to work, and they are already working in many cities around the world as well. These are the material handling vehicles. So basically, in some facilities where they use this type of vehicles, they did some projects to change the fuel fleet of, for example, electric material handling vehicles to hydrogen ones. Several facilities did the replacement. All these fleets that you see here in the screen are hydrogen-powered material handling vehicles. And the comment from the customers who did the change from electric to these hydrogen vehicles, they say that it was much more flexibility for the operation, that the risk was reduced, and they prefer it compared to the previous offer solutions. Heavy duty applications. So this is a class 8 weight capacity truck with a torque of 560 horsepower. He has a cruising speed of 65 miles per hour and a range of 300 miles. This vehicle was developed in USA. It's fully operational, and it's a fuel cell hydrogen truck. Now we pass to the maritime application. So there are two examples here. We have the Aranda boat. The Aranda boat it was called the Miranda project, an European project. They provide 3 stacks of around 83 kilowatts to supply the powertrain system of the boat. During the test and during the validation, it works pretty good. So it was able to power the ship and make the change from the previous type of powertrain. And into the right side, you can see the energy observer boat is a totally energy autonomy type of boat. He works with solar panels, eolic energy. He has its own electrolyzer and a fuel cell inside. So basically, solar energy and eolic energy provide the power necessary to make the electrolyzer work to produce hydrogen, and that hydrogen is used to charge the batteries in the boat and then to allow it to propel the ship. So as you see in the news, this boat a couple of weeks ago, he just drive around 5,000 nautical miles in the Atlantic, fully autonomy energy, fully green hydrogen. Regarding the plane applications, so there was again a project from European Commission. This was the Icarus project. In this case, of course, the fuel cell was not used to supply the full powertrain of the plane. Was used as a secondary power source for all the additional or auxiliary energy necessary inside the plane. And again, the technology proves to work perfectly good, and it succeeds in being the secondary power source of this plane. This is the Icarus plane. Okay, so that was a transport pillar. Maybe I forget to show the train, but there is currently also a train, the Coradia train in Netherlands. It's by Alstom. It was released past March 7 to the public. He has been tested in the rail, and the performance of this fuel cell train is the same as the performance of traditional trains. So it's again ready to work and to compete with the existing technologies. Regarding the energy pillar, so I will focus right now in all what is related to stationary fuel cell power. So power and heat. So as many persons asked before, it's not only industrial, but also we can go to the residential type of applications. So I will show again some examples. So you can see here some power generators for remote areas in the left up corner. The main goal of this application is to replace the existing diesel generators of remote areas production of energy. You have also some backup and off-grid applications like the one in the right up. So as a backup, like a power plant for industries or big buildings, there were some modules built in order to provide power when it's necessary, and they are working on fuel cells, different type of fuel cells. And residential application, that's the one that we see in the down part. So you have a fuel cell micro cogeneration module that allows you to input the gas and produce heat and electricity for your house. So this was also there was also a demonstration project about it, and then this is the result. So these modules also are existing. But above all these applications, there are some challenge, of course, to be able to make this more real and more appearing more in the world, in the technology world. So these are the cross-cutting areas of this technology. So basically, all that is related with legal and administrative and regulatory frameworks. So with all the knowledge, the idea is that we have to provide knowledge to develop and improve the current regulations, codes, and standards. So in addition to all the technology development or engineering development, there is this big part of legal. Additionally, all these projects or technology that is currently working uh, produce data that allow us to validate the current approach of the technology, uh, which main goal is to address every time like more safety and more efficient performance. Additionally to that, education and training, you have to consider that for all the deployment of these technologies, there is a workforce that needs to be educated and trained to do maintenance, to do emergency response. So again, safety and a proper operation of the technology. And finally, of course, as there are new technologies, it's really important again the area of education and training to create social awareness and public acceptance of the technology. Tell the truth about the technology, remove the myths, the beliefs, the reality in between, the comparison in between the real technologies. And finally, all these projects, all this technology that is currently existing, that we are currently monitoring, we can use it to characterize and improve every time more the footprint of fuel cell and hydrogen technologies in the future. So that's from my side. Thank you very much, and please let me know if you have questions.
Thank you very much for for your presentation about the role of hydrogen in the transport sectors. So it has it. So the presentations are already out there. So if you have questions or even comments, please feel free to write it on the comment sections, and we will pass it to the speakers. But beforehand, we would like to hear what probably Fatima has a comment about what what was presented, or public question.
Yeah, just thank you so much for the presentations today, and I'm also very happy to be joining again. I think it was very important to point out that hydrogen technologies can work at a different scale and for different use cases. Uh, so yeah, thank you so much for that. We'll be looking forward to hearing some questions from the audience.
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, guys, feel free to ask questions. And the first question we are going to take is from Marco. First of all, he said great presentation. How does the range of hydrogen vehicle compare to electrical vehicle, and compared to the petrol fueled vehicles?
Basically, in petrol fuel vehicles, you have the full range of range as much as you want, depending on the tank of your vehicle. You see in the small graph, maybe I can present again.
Yeah.
I will show first. Can you see my image?
Mm-hmm.
So fossil fuel vehicles and all the applications were covering all these ranges: short distance, long distance, small vehicle size, and high vehicle size. So all these new technologies that we present here, electric vehicles, hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and fuel cell, they can cover together all what we were doing before with the fossil fuel.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I hope that answers the question. And the next question we're going to take is from Himalaya Birshrita. In case of passenger cars, I think the capex and cost of hydrogen makes fuel cell less effective than I think the battery. And
Vehicles
what is B? Okay, you guys know better than this. Maybe you can explain. And how do you see the future of FCV in light duty vehicles? What is BEV and PHEV?
Battery electrical vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles.
Okay.
So
Right.
the future, yes, fuel cell vehicles in light duty, yes, as soon as batteries keep developing and maybe be less heavy and less occupying less space, yes, electric vehicles will be more powerful in that light duty vehicles. But in heavy duty, for example, they cannot compete with the hydrogen. That's why I think, yeah, mainly in the future, hydrogen, my personal opinion, will be for heavy duty and, for example, bus type of applications.
Yeah. Yeah, it has more competitive advantage on that side.
Exactly. And it's because of the volumetric density of the hydrogen. You have a space in the
Okay.
trucks and the buses
Ah,
to store a lot more than in a car.
true. Okay, thank you so much. We are going to take questions from Nikita. How is the conversion efficiency with hydrogen storage compared to battery storage?
Conversion efficiency.
So conversion efficiency, I think, is conversion from the storage to the electricity, or
Yes,
maybe.
yes. In no fuel cells, we are like 60-70% of efficiency. Honestly speaking, from batteries, I don't know how is the conversion.
Okay. So 60 and 70% for the.
Fuel cell, yes, that's the efficiency.
Okay. So as last week, Nikita, your question will be answered in a more detailed.
Yeah, sorry.
Last week, you were questioning about the density of hydrogen, right?
Mhm.
So great. And then I will take the next question from Fausto Calderon. This question is for Rocio. Is it possible to use the same gas pipelines for natural gas and use it for the hydrogen too?
Yeah, actually, it is possible, but it's depending of the blending regulation of each sectors. So sometimes we need to understand which percentage of the hydrogen we can inject directly into the gas network. So
And sorry,
no,
carry
no,
on.
it is mainly depending on the which, sector we are in the government regulation of the blending between hydrogen and methane in the gas infrastructure, and but it is possible. It's completely feasible.
Probably you can elaborate more. What determine the percentage? I mean, is it because of the market or is it because of the technical limitations about how what the share
Yeah,
of the.
actually, the limitation of the ppm that we need to have in the gas network, that you have a different component in the methane and other as a hydrogen, but in a little portions. So you can have you can inject directly all the hydrogens that you want into the gas infrastructure. You need to respect different portions of the each
Okay,
component. So it's because of that is based on the regulation of each sectors that will determine it which is the capacity of the hydrogen that you can inject in the gas infrastructure.
okay. Thank you so much. Okay, I will take another question from another again from Fausto. I think, yeah. And the question is for Maria. How does it compare the average price per kilometer of hydrogen fuel cell EV compared to a battery one? Is there a size of vehicle where they reach a break-even point compared to battery ones?
For sure that there is a size in which they achieve that break-even point. I don't have particularly the numbers. I'm more in the technology side than the price and economical behavior of these uh, electricity prices and hydrogen prices. So I don't know exactly the prices to say which is cheaper and which ranges. But of course, there is a break point at some range or at some vehicle size that will change, convert one and the other more efficiently or more applicable.
Okay, maybe related to this question, I would also be interested to know in countries where they have already hydrogen refueling station, um, do you have any idea of how the price was set
Right now, the price is around 10 euros per kilogram.
per kilogram? So it's not per liter, yeah, because we have like per liter is
Yeah,
for the
it's
other diesel.
hydrogen we manage in kilograms. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, if other speakers have comments or want to complement the answers, feel free to shout. And we are taking the next questions from Frank. Thank you so much for the presentation, he said. And compared to the heavy duty truck, what's the advantage and appropriateness of fuel cell for light duty, like 3.49 ton?
Okay. But the advantages with fuel cell is light duty. Again, you have the space to store hydrogen. More hydrogen is not heavy, so as soon as you start to increase the amount of range that you want, if you want a light duty vehicle that has to do long trips, long distance trips, or big trips, batteries will start to fail to you because they are heavy and they will occupy a lot more space than hydrogen. Hydrogen is not heavy, so you can just store it in the roof and you have a much bigger range.
Okay. There you go, Frank. It's just really interesting. So thank you for the questions. And yeah, if you have other questions, feel free to write it on the YouTube live chat. And I have like probably little questions, like some questions. First is regarding the hydrogen production coming from renewable energy. And we see that hydrogen is very beneficial in the long term. But how does the collaboration look like now between the renewable energy producers and the hydrogen producers? Like, is there any synchronization about, or yeah, how does it look like in what you know? Whoever can answer.
Yes, actually, there are many renewable energy generators that are trying to join these kind of demonstrators in order to understand how this technology works and
Hmm.
how to understand as well their role in these energy transitions. So they are trying to make different kind of collaborations in order to make these feasibility studies of these power to gas projects, and then try to pass in the demonstration phase in order to see in the reality how they can collaborate, because they are different sectors that are intervened in this kind of projects.
Okay. And are these big actors? Are these the one, for example, like big wind energy producers, or
Yeah, exactly,
they also
exactly.
interested in this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, if I can add, it is also on the side of the end users that sometimes, for example, some large industries that would be very large consumers of this hydrogen can also get involved in this. So we are not only talking about the companies that establish a renewable energy plant, or I don't know, like a wind power plant somewhere far. It is also something interesting for the large off-takers to produce their own hydrogen on site for
Hmm.
for for, for their own use, which is currently the case for non-green hydrogen that can be produced on site for many different types of industries. And in the future, we will see a lot more different configurations that are being explored right now.
Can you explain, probably take one example of what industry plays the major role for this?
For example, we have industries that are already that hydrogen is already a feedstock for them, like ammonia, for example. So here you can see that ammonia uses large amounts of hydrogen, and we are talking about an industry that is at a huge scale for producing fertilizers. So normally they would produce their own hydrogen on site for their
Okay.
consumption using natural gas, and then we can see that there are large producers of ammonia that are exploring this type of case studies about how to decarbonize their hydrogen feedstock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you. Just want to check if there is any question. Yeah. So there is a question from Mahdi that I'm going to take. What do you think of integrating? Okay. What do you think of techno-economic advantages of integrating direct renewable electricity to heavy duty vehicle like bus compared to hydrogen storage? First of all, yeah, if this kind of model exists, and if there is, then what is the advantage? Is the question clear? Maria, I think you have to unmute your.
The integrating direct renewable electricity to heavy duty will be like a bus with solar panels, because
Yeah.
otherwise you are always needing a storage, and storage is batteries. So
Or maybe maybe what they are talking about is something like a catenary line, an overhead line.
Ah, yes, yes.
maybe
Bus
like
electrification like train. Electric. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Ah,
like
okay, directly.
electrification. Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
it like a lot of things. It depends on the use case. For example, if you don't want, you can electrify some heavy duty vehicles such as trains, or let's say like mining trucks, for example. You can electrify them. If you have like a steady route, for example, it is very feasible. But if we are talking about battery storage, it becomes difficult because we are talking about even sometimes, who knows, like megawatt scale,
Hmm.
uh, like extremely large batteries that would be needed for certain use cases.
Okay.
So it would be difficult in that case to have to have trucks, for example, that you need to charge for several hours in a day.
Hmm.
While on the contrary, with hydrogen, we have you can refuel in a matter of 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Ah, okay.
Yes, yes, I don't know if something more to add.
when you have fleets of vehicles that always do like a short trip and they always come back to the same facility, this type of technology is working, because they will, for example, charge all night, and then the next day they will repeat the short trip, so it will be okay. But when you have a changing trips, changing distances, and you need fast refueling because maybe you will not stay park all night, you need something more flexible as hydrogen.
Okay. So it's not only that hydrogen can cover more distance, but also it's a faster refueling period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Next question I'm going to take is how is the capacity hydrogen? Hmm. So this has been covered in the previous presentation, and yeah, how is the capacity hydrogen as minimum for light vehicle and how many kilometer? Maybe we can, Mr. Jikukuryu can refer to the presentation offline in the very large in the middle of the YouTube videos. And okay, so I'm going to take the next question from Spencer. Is anyone here in any of your companies talking about the underground hydrogen storage for long-term seasonal storage applications? If so, then yeah, who is talking about that and what is the direction and where is it? No, not that we.
Not in my case. No.
Not my case particularly.
I
Thank
think
you so much.
there are some, of course, some applications in underground storage, but it depends also on the formation, on the geological formations. So it is not something that it's available everywhere. It requires some studies in that sense. So maybe if there are some demonstrations that are specifically trying to target these areas, there may be some
Okay,
some, some studies on that. Mm.
okay.
Mm.
Thank you so much. Maybe we will try to find more sources on that next time. And the next question I will take from Frank again. Okay, this is quite specific. What do you think Mercedes-Benz give up fuel cell development for passenger cars last week? Well, they keep more investment on commercial vehicle. Anyone has comment on that?
Uh, Commercial vehicle,
I
does
think
that
it's
mean heavy duty vehicles, maybe? Because passengers cars,
give up so I think they basically they give up on fuel cell development for passenger
or
cars.
passengers probably is what we were discussing. The
Yeah,
target will be heavy duty, as I say, my
yeah.
opinion, they will be going through there, so maybe they will put all the task force to go in that direction.
True. Yeah, so maybe the commercial vehicle that he is referring to is the heavy-duty
Heavy
ones.
duty, I think, yes.
Yeah. So that is already covered with the previous questions. We'll take 2 or probably 3 more questions. First one, the next one is from Paula. Can you tell us what technical challenges have you faced or that you think are key to solve? Like, what are the challenges that we really need to solve to speed up this, to scale up hydrogen? I think last week, I remember we discussed about regulation, right?
Regulations, yes.
But
Yeah.
but this is more like a tech and scale. I think also the bigger the scale is, the better. But
Hydrogen stations, I know the the machine, the technology need to compress the hydrogen to 70 megapascal to do the proper refueling, and all that is relating to have the pure hydrogen to be able to operate properly in the fuel cell of a vehicle, because for the fuel cell to operate, you need a really pure hydrogen. So the stations have to provide a really good hydrogen, and there I think there is a big challenge in how to compress it properly, how to make sure that you don't add contaminants, how to test that your hydrogen is not having any contaminants, and I think there is a big technical challenge now.
okay. So we still with regarding to that challenge, Frank also has another question regarding so what is then the importance of the coalition of fuel cell in car industry, like with Daimler and Volvo? How important do you think it's their coalition?
It's just a matter of system integration. The more experience you have experience from both, in this case, Daimler and Volvo are big companies. They have one probably have experience in powertrain more than the other one, and the other one more in trucks, how to build a truck or a hybrid truck or a EV truck. So of course they have to join all the task force to be able to develop, for example, a fuel cell truck.
Okay. We take the next question from Paula. I just want to check if this actually is. So this is already answered, which is basically the challenges to integrate hydrogen in the transport network. Yeah, so those are all the questions. So maybe one is that is left for me. I would like to understand how does it look like in the workforce of hydrogen, because it's still a niche. It's a niche sector. Like, not many people are actually working on this. I mean, at least from my point of view. What do you think is it the industry that still lacks of people with full competence to work on this sector, or or are there skills that can be transferable from other sectors? So this is open to everyone to answer this question.
From the vehicle transport, of course, you have one big part that can be transferred from normal vehicles or diesel, gasoline vehicles. One part that comes from hybrids, of course, because we have all the high voltage components that remain from the hybrid architecture. But of course, there is a part that is specifically related to the fuel cell, to the hydrogen tanks, that needs to be trained, that needs to be developed for the new workforce that will lead, for example, a hydrogen society. Yeah.
And how do you think now the existing institutions, education institutions, dealing with that? Do we have enough place for people to learn that, or it has to be something that you learn from from the.
I think here, European Union with the hydrogen developing society project has been trying that this is become one of the pillars of this project, this education and training of the workforce. And of course, I think universities have also include all this hydrogen as part of engineering education. It's part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. You have other comments, Rustin, or anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add from the hydrogen production side. I would say that it's a very it's a field that needs a lot of different skills. It's a very, how do you say, a lot of transversal skills. You need a lot of knowledge related to renewables and also to the functioning of the equipment and also
Mhm.
of the properties of hydrogen. So it's a lot of knowledge from different sectors that needs to be integrated in order to be able to understand that.
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah, so it's not had fuel cell specific, but it means yeah, it also requires a different skill that can be integrated together. Rocio, you have a comment on this?
I would completely agree. Actually, there are many companies in R&D that are trying to develop this kind of project, and you can find that it's not only one specific department or sector that are intervening. It is more than you have different task forces that are trying
Mm-hmm.
to act in this kind of projects.
Yeah,
Okay.
I maybe forget to mention in these European projects there is an integration of sectors also, not only industry,
Yeah, exactly.
university, and they
Yeah,
are trying to get all from all like stakeholders. So it's a really big view of what is needed, what is happening now, what is necessary to keep developing. So yeah,
exactly.
So okay, so if, for example, some of the audience here would like to learn more about hydrogen and how the development of hydrogen, at least for example in Europe, is there any project that they can refer to or a website they can refer to
yeah,
for getting more knowledge?
several ones. Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything that you can recommend?
I will say, for example, just the fuel cell joint undertaking. If you look at FCHJU, I don't know if you can FCHJU. This is one of the
F.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I
main
have it in
initiatives from
reference.
the European Union targeting hydrogen and fuel
Yeah,
cells,
Okay.
and they have worked in
hydrogen. Yeah,
several areas like developing vehicles, increasing the production of green hydrogen, hydrogen stations, creating standards.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. So now we do not have more questions from the audience, and I think I also do not have more questions. So I think I would say to the audience, feel free to contact the speakers through LinkedIn. So if you want to learn more and want to even contribute to the discussion, or you have feedback, or you even have some projects maybe that you can talk about with them. So yeah, feel free to contact their LinkedIn. Unfortunately, Fatima has a connection problem that she has to quit the meeting room. Oh, she's
Hi,
back.
I'm back.
Yeah, Fatima, we are just closing our webinar session this afternoon. Well, I would like to thank you to all speakers to have contributed in these 2 weekends sharing sessions. And for the audience, feel free to subscribe to, I think we have it on, I cannot say that, but I think it's on the YouTube description. We have the links for our website and also to subscribe your email address so that you're going to be invited for the next webinars that we are going to organize. And if any of you wants to share their experience as well in other sectors in the sustainability, anything, just contact us and we can organize this so we can, share the knowledge to everyone. Well, thank you so much for everything, and I wish you all very nice afternoon.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Bye.
Bye, thank
Bye.
you.
Bye bye.